I did not know that.
Welcome to another episode of I Did Not Know That. Thanks for stopping by. Ever wonder about something? Maybe you'll find it here. Check out all the other videos on this channel and remember to like and subscribe. The other day I was a bit surprised when I saw Don Knotts appearing in an episode of McHale's Navy. That episode was aired in 1966, and by that time, Knotts had become a big star. He had left the Andy Griffith Show the previous year to start his film career. I couldn't find a specific reason on why he did that McHale's Navy episode. He'd already starred in the film The Incredible Mr. Limpet, and while it did okay, Knotts felt it hadn't been marketed very well. He also had completed filming The Ghost and Mr. Chicken, which turned out to be a decent hit, but it had not yet been released. I do know that Knotts had an incredible work ethic and constantly worried about his career and that his next job could be his last one. Maybe that's why he did it. A bit before he did this episode, during the filming of The Ghost and Mr. Chicken in 1965, Knotts complained of leg pain. He had pulled a leg muscle while running down the stairs of the haunted mansion. But around this time they discovered that he had a blood clot in his leg and he had to be hospitalized. Ronnie Schell was a good friend of Don. You might recognize him from his appearances on Gomer Pyle and other shows from that era. Schell and Andy Griffith visited Don in the hospital. Knotts was well known to be somewhat of a hypochondriac. Knowing this, Schell pulled Griffith aside near the hospital bed and whispered loudly, "Have you told him the truth yet?" Knotts, of course, heard this, as he was meant to, and when they came back to the bed, Don was white as a ghost. Schell then started laughing, and he said Don never forgave him for it. Before we go on, I think I need to explain how dangerous a blood clot can be. A blood clot in the leg can limit the blood flowing back to the heart and lungs and cause a pulmonary embolism. The people you see here are just a few that die every year from this condition. Blood clots in the legs and lungs are responsible for hundreds of thousands of deaths a year worldwide. So in Don Knotts' condition, to make matters worse, he and the cast of The Ghost and Mr. Chicken were sent out to tour and promote the film, which premiered in January of 1966. Joan Staley, who starred as his love interest in the film, toured with Don and said she had no idea that he was fighting a blood clot in his leg at the time. She said there was no way he should have been on the road with that problem. So now we come to Don Knotts' surprising appearance in the McHale's Navy episode called Little Red Riding Doctor. That episode was filmed in December 1965, which puts it right in the middle of Don's blood clot problems. In fact, the problem evidently got so bad that he had to stop shooting that episode for a while. The episode is on YouTube, and if you watch it, you'll see many scenes with Don Knotts seated, and I'm sure that wasn't a coincidence. When he finally returned to the show, Knotts, who was already rail thin, had lost even more weight during his absence, so they had to pad his clothes so he would look like he did before he took the break from shooting. If you think that's crazy, you haven't even heard all of it. It turns out at around this same time he had the blood clot, Knotts filmed another TV program called Bob Hope Presents, the Chrysler Theater. In the episode, Knotts plays the Curly Kid, a man who wants to be an outlaw. The plot is that he keeps trying to get arrested by the sheriff, who was played by Arthur Godfrey, but the sheriff won't arrest him. The show had maybe the longest title in history. The title was, "The Reason Nobody Hardly Ever Seen a Fat Outlaw in the Old West is as follows." We can see in this newspaper clipping that Knotts was performing with that blood clot in his leg, which I'm sure was not only painful, but probably dangerous. I'd love to see a clip from that show, but I was not able to find any. If you grew up around anyone who was about the same age as Don Knotts back in those days, you might remember that almost all of them had one thing in common. They had ingrained in them a tremendous work ethic. They went to work every day regardless of how they were feeling or the pain they were in. To us now it might appear foolish, but I think it can explain part of why Don Knotts did what he did. That, along with worrying that his current job might be his last one, caused him to ignore his pain and illness. Regardless, I think we are all happy that tragedy didn't strike and that Knotts went on to make audiences laugh for decades afterward.
Lieutenant Pratt! Oh, Colonel, thank heaven you're here!